This is the Prestigious Initiative. Welcome. I'm Chris Bean, and here with me is Chris Kent. Hello, Mr. Kent.
Hello, sir.
Picking up the conversation where we last left, we talked about having a work-life balance. So just some of the key points we talked about last time. We talked, a little bit about what work-life balance is, what that kind of means to us. We talked a little bit about how having a work-life balance is something that can kind of go through seasons where it could be, one type of essence at one time in your life, and 4 months later it's completely different just because of how your life goes through seasons and that changes. We talked about a little bit about prioritizing your work and your life and how that can change your interaction with how you experience having a work-life balance. We talked about scheduling, putting in specific times in your schedule where you can be available to do work or where you're available to be at home with your kids, your family, or your spouse, whatever it is. So picking up from there, I think the next topic to talk about is setting boundaries. And setting boundaries is perhaps a two-way street. Sometimes I think people say, oh, I'm just going to set a boundary. You can have a boundary and set a boundary like mentally, and you don't cross that boundary. But unless it's actually said to that other person, hey, I don't want to do this, or, I want to have boundaries, or some sort of verbiage to let that other person or those other people that you're talking with know that, nope, I'm not crossing that line. Then having boundaries, setting boundaries is an arbitrary thing. It can, you're not necessarily, there's a hard line, there's a wavy line, and you might know where-ish that line is, but the other person or people that you're talking with, they have no idea that there's even a line that exists, and they're trying to push and move that line all over the place. And so if you're going to have boundaries, which is obviously something I think you should do, is have boundaries, let those people know, nope, I don't feel comfortable doing that, or that's too much for me, or whatever, however you want to word that or phrase that. But I think that it needs to be explicitly communicated to the people who you're talking with. What do you think, Mr. Kent?
I think that can be difficult for some people too. And, so much so that we did a whole episode on the art of saying no and being able to say no to things. And that's kind of about setting boundaries. But I think it's important, like you said, if you want that life balance or you want that work-life balance, being able to say no to someone or say no to extra hours or say no to certain activities is going to be, really necessary in those moments. And so even though it can be hard sometimes, I think it's very important. And being able to set boundaries, I like what you said, how having a boundary in your head is one thing, but saying that out loud, even if it's not between you and a person, it's between you and your relationship with X, Y, or Z thing. You tell your wife, hey, I can't have the TV on while I'm reading a book, because if the TV's on, I can't focus. Or, I enjoy spending time with you and I love talking to you, but I can't talk to you for 30 minutes while I'm writing this, whatever, what I'm saying? You get some of those boundaries can be important. And I think a lot of times we want and understand the need for boundaries, but something that can stop us is the actual act of asking or communicating the boundaries that you want or the thing that you're looking for. And so I would probably argue that a lot of people like the idea of boundaries, but the actuality of setting boundaries can be kind of scary and difficult. But I as long as it makes sense, and even if it doesn't make sense necessarily, I would say that people will probably respect you a lot for having boundaries and sticking by them, as long as it doesn't hurt other people, or it's just silly, or it's something you're trying to do to get out of a certain situation. In some cases,
really, not to say that you have to do this because it doesn't warrant it in every situation, but if you have a boundary and then you have a because, or this is why, or I won't do that because, and this is why, I guess those are the phrases that would follow that, but you give them a backing. I don't want to do that because that interferes with my time with my family. I can't, like whatever it is, then they're like, oh, okay, I see. Well, and I think what that does is that establishes, one, the boundary, but that also lets whoever it is that you're talking with have a glimpse into where your priorities lie. which for better or for worse, it could work out great for you, could not, depending on, I guess, the situation, who you're talking with. But I think allowing, so this is why I have, if the situation calls for, I mean, if it's your boss and you don't have that type of whatever, it doesn't necessarily have to be there all the time. But I think that having that and then saying, this is why, will allow that other person to have some sort of insight as to, oh, they said they can't work for me today. I don't understand, whatever it is. But, oh, they don't understand that on Tuesdays I have my kids from this time to this time. Oh, that's why they can't, or again, maybe the situation doesn't call for it. I understand. But I think that if you are going to explicitly say, this is the line, in whatever term, phrase you want to use, then perhaps if you feel good enough or comfortable enough, strong enough or whatever, then also perhaps you say, this is why, the reasoning behind, nope, that's the line. I'm not passing that.
I think certain situations call for that. Like you said, not every single time do you need to say that to somebody. I was given some advice by someone one time, and it was, all they said to me was, not everyone deserves all of you. And that kind of applies in the situation, in the sense that not everyone deserves a reason why. I don't need to give everyone a reason why. If I'm always trying to back myself up with, oh, I don't do this because of blah, blah, whatever, it's almost like you're not allowing yourself that boundary, because you're still trying to justify what you're doing. I think it's important to have a reason for why you're doing those things, but you don't always have to tell everybody for that. And maybe that's a boundary that you need to be setting, is that I don't need to explain myself all the time. I want a day off, so I'm going to take a day off. I'm allowed to, and I have the capacity, and it's, work allows me so many days off a week or whatever it is, and you can take that day off. You don't have to explain to everybody, I'm taking a day off because life's been really tough, and this is happening between me and my spouse, and, I'm behind on my bills, and I don't need to know all that stuff about you. You can just say, hey, I need a day off. But there are people that can get a little more information from that. Your family or your friends that are close to you might be able to tell them, hey, I took a day off because of whatever reason, and kind of get that off your chest a little bit. But you don't have to give everybody a reason for whatever that thing is. So I agree with you that it can be helpful, but I would also push back, or not push back, but add more to that, the other side of that, where you don't have to tell everybody everything anyways either.
Yeah, maybe one of your boundaries is oversharing, and by saying, no, I can't do that because, and then you tell your whole life story. Okay, well, that's okay. You're breaking that other person's boundary. So, again, I think the situation is important to notice if or when that's called for. Yes.
Yeah, and we're talking about boundaries that's only between people, but sometimes boundaries aren't between just you and another person. They're between you and a thing. I'm at work. I know I can't pick up my phone because I'm going to text my friend or text my spouse or whatever it is, and then I'm going to lose track of time, and then 30 minutes are gone. 30 minutes I got to stay extra at work or work extra harder. And having boundaries with things as well can be important too, to make sure you're getting your work done, to make sure you don't work at a time that you should be with your family or focusing on your life in this work-life balance kind of conversation. So a lot of this is interpersonal, but not necessarily everything. I can't have the TV on while I'm working because I won't get my work done, or after 5 p.m. I close the laptop and don't look at it until tomorrow, because if I don't do that, then I'll keep working for the rest of the night and not do things that I need to get done too. So it's not always just with people, but having boundaries can come in different forms too.
Yeah, that's not something necessarily that we experience in our work life, but having I don't have any work electronics, or I don't have any work systems or programs that I'm actively doing after blank time, insert time here. And I think that probably is less important for us in our work-life balance, but very important for most people in their work-life balance. You have a hard line, it's 5:30. I don't work past 5:30. 5:30, I close my laptop. It's done for the night. Those things will be there tomorrow when I get there. Having a hard cutoff, and maybe it's not 5, maybe it's 7 or whatever it is. Who knows? Whatever time you set for it, but you have a line, boom, it's off at that time. And having that, stating that to yourself, and then, of course, be willing or have the discipline to follow through with that, not just to say, oh yeah, I don't work past 5:30 most nights, and then every night except for one day per week. Okay, so then say it, and then follow through with what you say. I don't work past 5:30. If 5:30 happens, I got an alarm that goes off. Boom, right? 5:30 happens, and my Wi-Fi at my house shuts off, or maybe that's a bit drastic, or whatever you have to do. But at whatever time it is that you say, okay, yep, I have blank time, I'm done working on those reports. I'll get back to them tomorrow. And that I think is a good boundary to have. And again, I think that the majority of people would interact and understand and hold on to that type of boundary. And perhaps the listeners, the people that are listening, have something like that. You don't work past blank time, which is great. Again, because that isn't, normal protocol for the way that we do work. That's not something I even thought about, but thanks for sharing that. That's a good one.
Yeah. And I can't remember if you mentioned last time too, but I know we've talked about the idea before as well. Having, a designated space for certain activities is, my work stays in the office at home. I work from home, or you're just having that designated space for it. My work stuff stays in that room or stays on that desk in that corner. Unless I'm working, I don't sit there and I don't do other things there because that's my workspace. Not only does it help you get into kind of a focus mode, but it could be helpful in setting those boundaries too, is I don't sit down at that desk unless it's work time, or, at 5:30, I get up from that desk and I go and do other things that aren't work, and setting that boundary too. But having that designated space can help with setting those boundaries, I think, because you sit at the desk, it's work time, and you're at the desk, it's not work time. There's just that mental kind of shift from spaces or places or settings that can be helpful with those boundaries too.
Yes, absolutely. And I find I use that frequently for myself. And I don't have a gigantic house, but I have this seat that I sit in to do this type of stuff. I have this chair that I sit in to do this. At the kitchen table, we have 4 chairs, and I have, different things that I do that I sit in at those 4 chairs. There's only 4, and it's only just a table, but if I'm sitting in this chair, I'm doing this type of thing. If I'm sitting in this chair, and so on. So you don't have to have a gigantic space to be able to, sprawl out. You don't have to see those. Just do this thing and whatever, in that space, and then do this thing in this space. And yeah, I like that. I read that in Cal Newport's Deep Work, and I sort of had been doing that before, but then reading that and seeing how that plays out, strategically pulling the strings and structuring those spaces, for me, I think was a huge benefit. So if you haven't done something like that or heard of that before, have different areas in your house. And again, it doesn't have to be huge, but have different areas in your house set aside, dedicated for different types of tasks that you do on a daily. You read in this area, you do, computer work for business on this area, you scroll through social media in this area, and have those different places, and then do your best to do that, whatever that thing is that you set for that space, in that space. Then you go to that space, you're already primed, set, ready to go to do whatever it is. So that is another good way to set boundaries. I think that, perhaps the next step, the next line here would be taking a good look at yourself, self-care, your hobbies, your daily practices, the things that you do because you want to do, the things you do because they bring you joy, or the things you do because they give you clarity or build creativity, whatever it is. But the things that you do that help you be you. And if you do less of those things, you get on a certain path, and you don't like you when you're on that path. So you need to do these things to help you stay on this path, the path that you want to be on. And having some sort of self-care and well-being routine or habit or events that you plan out and strategize and put to whatever it is, those things, those type of activities, I think help to ground you in order to help you be the best version of you that you can be. Now, I'm not saying you have to take, I can't go to work next month because I'm going on a camping trip. I have to do this. Otherwise, okay, maybe that's a bit much, but you have those things that you do that help you relax and unwind, and the hobbies that include those things. Make sure you have time for those. If you have to write out, okay, there's this many minutes in a week, maybe do hours first. There's so many hours in a week. Okay, that means I have this many hours in a day, and I need to do, these 17 things. Okay, well, this one goes here, and you detail it out, schedule it. And maybe you have, this first week of the month, you do these things, and the second week of the month, you do these things, and so on. It depends on how crazy or intricate that you want to be, but everybody, doesn't matter if you're Bill Gates or Elon Musk or whoever you are, listener, we all have 24 hours in a day. Everybody gets the same amount of time. And Mr. Kenny, you frequently remind me of this because I sometimes try to say that, they have more time or something like that. And I always got the same amount of time. They just allocate it differently or they prioritize it well or different or whatever, but everybody's got 24 hours. So, you have 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. X number of that is spent sleeping. X number of that is spent driving to work or to home or whatever. X number is spent at work doing work. Okay, what hours in your day, in your week, I would say probably in a week, what hours in your week do you have that are overflow that you can allocate differently? I would venture to say that if you sat down and, oh man, I spent 12 hours this week for screen time. Okay, well, maybe that is a bit much if that's on your personal device. You have 12 hours of screen time on your phone that you don't use for work. Okay, maybe that's a stretch. Maybe pull back that a little bit and you can get 12 more hours in a week. Okay, what can you do with 12 more hours in a week? Holy cow. Again, Jordan Peterson did a interview with John Deloney. John Deloney wrote Own Your Past, Change Your Future, which we've talked about previously. And in that podcast that they did back and forth, it's a great podcast. If you haven't listened to that before, highly recommend. In that podcast, Jordan Peterson talks about this. You have this many hours in a day or this many hours in a week. Okay, you have these many things, these many roles or these many things that you want to do in a week. Okay, we'll schedule it out. You set aside this much for this and this much for that and so on. And hearing that, it was like, oh, yeah, duh, of course you should do that. I haven't heard that before, so that was brand new, hugely important, game-changing information for me. It's brand new. Of course everybody has 24 hours. We all have the same amount of hours in a week. Do people use them differently? Absolutely. Do people use them wildly differently? Yes, absolutely. So in the talk of self-care, perhaps one of the exercises you do is okay, there's this many hours in a week. This much time is spent sleeping. This much time is at work, and so on. Okay, great. What are the things I want to do for me? What do I need to do to help me check that box, to be happy, to be a pleasant person outside of, whatever you're doing? And then make those things happen. Put them in the schedule. Yeah, okay, then you had to rely on your schedule to, yeah, okay, fine. Do that. And of course, I think we talked about this last time, but if you put those things on the schedule, you have to actually do those things that you put on the schedule. You can put it on the schedule and have that, Goldilocks plan set and then never follow through with it. And you can have that for years. And then slowly, little bit by little, you can wiggle your way, adjusting times in your schedule so that you can start to fit in to that Goldilocks schedule that you set up for yourself. Think about how much happier you would be if you could schedule your time. Think about how much happier you could be, how much more productive, if that's what floats your boat, whatever it is, how much more productive or happy or energized or focused or creative, whatever it is, if you could set your schedule every day and then do the things you have on your schedule. That seems great. Yeah, of course I want that. That'd be cool. What? Yeah, sign me up for that. Okay, just do it. It's not that hard. Do you have commitments you have to do? Yes. Do you have time in your schedule that's blocked out that you can't move or change or do it? Yes. But do you have time in your schedule that you're on your phone scrolling through social media looking at how everybody else is living their life? Probably. Is that time that you need? Is that benefiting you? Probably not. My guess is it's probably making you feel worse about yourself than you already do. I'm maybe in a future episode we can talk about my thoughts on social media, but the long and short of it is, if somebody's going to put something on social media, they're going to put their best version of themselves on social media. So all those pictures, all those things, all those posts, stories people are doing, those are all the good things that are happening. Do they have bad things that happen? Yes. Are there probably more bad things than good things? Probably. Do you think they have to spin whatever it is that you're reading or looking at to make it sound good? Probably. Does that help them feel happy about themselves? Maybe. Does that help you feel happy about yourself? Probably not. Do you play that same game? If you're on social media, probably. So perhaps in the talk of self-care, do a hard look at yourself and understand that everybody has 24 hours in the day. Think about what you can do to strategically pull on those strings to aid you in this work-life balance, to aid you to be the thing that you want to be, the person that you want to be. What do you need to add to your schedule or take away from your schedule? Where are your time wastes that you could be filling with your hobbies and leisure time, but instead you're doing whatever else as opposed to those?
Yeah, the work-life balance, depending on that self-care, and I know we talked about a lot in the first episode, doing the things that are you want to do when you can, because it's time for them. It's not time for work. It's time for you to do those things that bring you joy and bring you happiness, and scheduling time for those, making sure you actually do them, and making that part of the balance of your life. And part of the self-care too, in a different aspect, is taking care of yourself. To flip those two words around, and what I mean by that is eating properly, or eating healthy things that are good for you, hydrating yourself, taking care of things, and being careful of what you put into your body, being careful and thinking about what you do with your body. So rather than sitting around in the 3 hours of free time you have and doing absolutely nothing, be active and promote a healthy lifestyle and do things that are good for you. So that self-care isn't just doing the things that you enjoy, but doing things that are good for you, taking care of your body and taking care of yourself and trying to reduce the stress in your life, trying to bring more happiness through small actions and small changes. And maybe that's part of the thing that you block out in your time, and says, hey, I'm going to spend some time here to do these small things. I'm going to, make sure that I have enough time to go out and get a little activity in, or if it's just sitting outside in the sun, or, doing these things that are good for you, that I'm sure you can go online and just Google 5 healthy things for my body. Boom. Try and do those things and take care of your body too. So self-care, not only in the sense of making time for the things that are important to you and the time for things that you enjoy, but literally taking care of yourself and your body and doing things that are good for your body, getting enough rest and nutrients and, all those things you see. And, maybe that's sitting down reading a book, or going and taking a shower, or, there's so many different things you can do that are part of self-care, but make that part of your work-life balance so that you are taking that time to really sit back and take a look at yourself and helping to kind of balance those things out by knowing what's good for you.
I think that self-care and relationships kind of go hand in hand. So talking about self-care, I think, again, the natural next step is relationships. What relationships do you have in your life that aid in your self-care, that aid you in feeling good and feeling fulfilled about yourself? What relationships do you dread talking or interacting with that person? And you could go back, I think it was one of our earlier episodes where we talked about communicating with those people that you don't necessarily care for. Check that out if you haven't already. But having relationships and strong relationships that are meaningful to you can be so beneficial, so profound on your sense of being, that if you don't have those things, it's tremendous, the difference.
Yeah, and the work-life balance affects those relationships. So if you're spending all of your time working, you can't have those relationships, or you're spending less time working on those relationships and nurturing those relationships and really fostering those healthy relationships. So not only is it important to have those relationships for the work-life balance, but be aware of how the work-life balance is affecting those things. If you need to take some more time to really invest in those relationships, then do what you can to make that an important part of that balance. And, spending quality time, being able to sit down with a friend and actually listen to what they're saying and being able to communicate the way that you're feeling literally takes time. And so if you're doing too much work, you don't have time to sit down and kind of nurture those relationships. So make that part of the balance and make that a priority when you're sitting down to block out time or deciding what's important, that those relationships are helpful to you. They make you better. And so you should invest time into them, or vice versa. If there's some relationships that are making work more miserable or making your time outside of work more miserable, then maybe it's time to kind of part ways and do without those relationships, because all of it is being factored into what we're trying to balance out, is the work life and everything else in between. And so you really need to be conscious of those relationships, good and bad, and decide what you need to do to either keep them around or get rid of them, and how important it really is, and how much time you can actually invest into, nurturing or growing those relationships.
Yeah, relationships, again, are one of those things that you could be at work and have think about back in your school time. I would say, let's say 50% of you, maybe more, it's like 75% of people listening to this had a school experience that was like, oh yeah, I love school because it was learning, it was fun, I got to do all these things I loved and I liked doing it, and I did super well at school. And the other portion of you would say, yeah, I did not like school. School was tough for me, but I liked going because all my friends were there. And so to me, I think that having those relationships, perhaps in a job that you don't necessarily love, but you do because you know that it will lead to bigger, greater, whatever it is, have those relationships at work that make work more meaningful, more impactful, more pleasant to be at and around because of the people that are there. And, you are the person who gets to change that. You can modify those things. If you're at work and you feel like, oh man, I hate my job, this sucks. If you're one of those type of people, then people are probably like, well, yeah, stay away from John. John's always about, being negative, and, you don't want to hang out with a person like that. So you're positive. You make meaningful connections at work. You play the part of the person who can do the job and hold relationships with the people who you do the job with. That can greatly change the way that you view your work. If you go to work and like, oh man, I don't know anybody here, nobody likes me, whatever, and then you're the type of person that's just, you're stuck in your cubicle all day and you never leave and nobody talks to you because you don't talk to anybody, or they try to talk to you and you don't answer them or whatever else. You're like, whatever. You don't talk to them because you think they don't like you or whatever. They're trying. You're just not playing your part. And so I think that, in this work-life balance part of work, if you go to work and you enjoy the people that you're there with, that can make work so much better. So much time would fly then. Now, of course, you have to do work while you're at work. I get that. You still have to do things, but if you can be there with people you enjoy being there with, think about how much better that would be. And it's all, to me, I think it's all perspective shift. If your perspective on work is negative and down and all the people there hate you or whatever it is, then yeah, you're not going to love that so much. However, if you can shift that and make some connections while you're at work, build those relationships while you're at work, then going to work is not so bad because, you get to see Jeffrey. Great. All right, I'm going to hang out with Jeffrey today. And then, Jeffrey is friends with Jonah. And now you get to hang out with Jeffrey and Jonah at work. And you just continue to build and expand. Now, again, of course, you have to keep that in check and actually do work while you're at work. I understand. But again, if you can change your perspective on that and enjoy the time that you spend at work with those people, how much more beneficial could that be to you than otherwise?
And a lot of this too, we talk about scheduling things and blocking things out and controlling things and having things a certain way. And that's all good. That's a good place to start. And part of this balance, if you ever think about the idea of balance and try to stand on one foot, you're not completely still. You have to give and take, and there's some changes, and some things vary when you're trying to find your balance. And so even though we have an idea of how we want things to be, and we're very particular in setting our boundaries and being adamant about things that are important to us and making this balance good for our life, part of balance inherently is that it varies, and it's you need to have adaptability. You need to be flexible when you're dealing with some of the stuff. And so some ideas or some ways to tie that into what we've already talked about is you have that plan for the day. And I think we mentioned it too when we talked about it, but if you can get 80% of that plan done, I consider that a success, because you didn't know that X, Y, or Z thing was going to happen, or maybe the first thing you did today took longer than you thought it was going to take, and so you weren't able to make it to do whatever the other thing, number two was. And so being adaptable and flexible for this is a huge part of it as well, because not everything is going to go the way you want it to be, even though we can try to make it as much as we want and try to find that balance and try to hold on to that as much as we can. It's never going to go exactly the way that you want it to go. If it does for you, great, awesome. I hope you can maintain that. But I think part of that is setting up the expectations of things not going exactly how you want them to go, and learning how to kind of go with that flow and be flexible and make changes and be able to kind of switch things around without it impacting or blowing up your whole day or completely ruining your balance, because we don't know what's going to happen, and we need to be able to roll with the punches, as they say, in some of these situations. So consider that when you're thinking about balance too. Is it's good to have a plan or a structure or a backbone or idea of how you want things to be, but also be prepared that they're not going to entirely turn out the way you want them to be all the time, because it just doesn't work out that way. There's too many things that are going into the equation to be able to have it perfectly balanced at all times.
Yeah, I think something I always think about when I think about flexibility in your schedule is my Goldilocks schedule is my game plan. And anybody who's done sports or anything like that, you have a game plan about, this is going to happen. I'm going to do this. Then you go out and start to play. They do something that you don't expect. Well, I guess I don't have a game plan anymore. You're going to have a B and a C and a D all the way down. So your Goldilocks schedule is plan A. And, midway through the day, if it's totally off the rails, see how you can reset. What can you do to, okay, I'm going to get back on track now. If it happens, great. If it doesn't happen, okay, fine. Understand that you can't foresee all different situations. You can't anticipate, oh, they're going to do this and that's going to happen. Then you can't play. It's not worth the time and effort to try to play that game. Now, if you've been at your job for, X number of years and it's this and then this and this, okay, fine. Then it would be much easier to do that with. However, if your job changes or you've got lots of different plates up in the air and spinning all, okay, fine. Then you might have to have an ideal day for yourself and understand that most days you won't get that. Some days you can, and when you do, yes. And other days you fall short. Okay, fine. So I think the thing to keep in mind is, again, that's a game plan. If you get it, even better. If you don't get it, okay, fine. You can't beat yourself up or feel down or frustrated or disappointed because, oh man, I couldn't, my day didn't go. Okay, fine. You can't plan for and schedule and anticipate all the different things that are going to happen. I don't know how to do that. If anybody does know how to do that, please reach out to us because I'd love to know. But I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to plan and anticipate 18 moves ahead of time. Okay, maybe you can do a week ahead of time. Okay, fine. Maybe it's not even that, or fine, whatever it is. I mean, the part about being flexible, again, to me is in your head, you have to have like a mantra or a affirmation that you say, like, I am a flexible person. When things don't go my way, it's okay. Or I made that up right now. Something to that effect. So that when things inevitably go off the rails, or when that thing happens and you didn't expect it to happen, you didn't see it coming, you didn't know it was going to happen, your whole life isn't thrown out of whack. Okay, great. Deal with whatever it is and then move on. Can you get back to the schedule? No. Okay, fine. Reevaluate and do something else. Can I get back to the schedule? Yes. Okay, good. Do the schedule. It's like a roadmap. What's the term I'm looking for there? Like you got this thing happens.
Flow chart.
A flow chart. Yeah, it's a flow chart. So this thing happens and then it branches off down here. Can I do this? Yes. Okay, good. Do that. No. Okay, good. Circle back. What can you do to, whatever it is to get back to the second part of that? You have a flow chart that you play through in your head, and you do this, I'm sure, without even realizing. If I have to make it across town for a meeting, all right, great. I'm in the 12th floor of my office building. I go over to the elevator and I push the button. And I push the button, nothing happens. All right, and then I have in my brain is working, the wheels are turning. Okay, do I take the stairs? I might be a little sweaty if I take the stairs. We're on the 12th floor. Maybe I'll just take the stairs to the next level and see if the elevator is working on that one. Okay, but before I do that, maybe I should wait here for another couple seconds and see. Ding. Okay, good. The elevator walked in. All right, good. I can go in the elevator. All right, then I get down to the street level. Then of course you can play out the whole other end. Okay. The elevator didn't open. Okay, great. I take the stairs to the next level. Okay, that didn't work either. I'm not going to go stair by stair. I just got to make it down to the end. Do I go crazy fast? No, that doesn't make it too sweaty. I'm going to go at a brisk pace, but I'm not going to get too sweaty as I go. Okay, great. Go. Then you act upon that plan. All right, great. You get it, or the elevator doors open. All right, then you go. All right, man. I had to take I took the elevator down. All right, I'm right on time. I'm right where I need to be. Oh man, there's construction. Do I go this way or that? And you're consistently playing out this game in your head. All right, do I do this? No, I do that. And you have this flow chart that you have A, B, and C options that are queued up and ready for you. But every once in a while, there's that D that you didn't see coming, you didn't know was going to happen, but that's the choice you have to make. A, B, C. Oh man, that didn't work. Okay, great. I got to do option D. I circle back. I got to do this. Always you are playing that game with yourself. Being flexible is a huge portion of that. If I'm stuck at that elevator, man, and I get mad at him, kicking and I'm screaming, whatever, that doesn't help me. I'll give you for instance. This past weekend was a Memorial Day weekend. Over the weekend, me and my wife went to the store and we got one of those little pools for the kids. It's like a little plastic thing, and they have the small ones and they got the bigger one. All right, we got 2 kids. Last year we had 2 of the smaller ones, and they did okay, but they're kind of outgrowing those. So we got one of the bigger ones, the big plastic ones, not inflatable. So it's a big plastic thing. We get back to the vehicle we drove there in. It's like a SUV. Oh, this thing is not going to fit. Okay, well, I know the store we were at was about 2 miles, give or take, from my house. I'm thinking, okay, well, it's like 85 degrees, 12 o'clock, noon. I'm just going to walk home because it's not going to fit in here. I'm going to bend and crinkle this thing up. And then, well, once those things are bent and crinkled, they only last for so long. So I don't want to do that. I'm just going to walk home. And so I'm like, I told my wife that I'm going to walk home. Well, you're going to walk home? That's crazy. Okay, yeah, but we stand around here and him and haw about trying to fit this in the car. It's not going to work. Doesn't fit. Maybe I could strap it to the top and have straps. I have to go back in the store, get straps, and I have to hopefully that it doesn't blow off. It's super light and it's going to catch wind. It's a pool, it's like a sail on top of the car. I don't feel comfortable doing that. I don't think that's going to work so good. So I'm running down all the options in our head. She's like, okay, well, let me call my mom. They got like the van for the kids and stuff. Okay, all right, great. Well, what's going to happen is I'm going to go walk, and she'll see me on the path, and we'll try to fit it in there. And if it doesn't work, well, at least I'm that much further closer to home if I do have to walk. Fine. So I start walking. I get, a block and a half away or something. She pulls up to the van. Nope. Okay, this still doesn't work. So I just keep going. I make it home. Obviously, fine. I didn't die on the way, but I played out that game. If I was, man, this is, okay, fine. I spent an hour, 45 minutes or whatever it was. It wasn't an hour. It was less than that. But anyways, I walked home. Okay, fine. Walked home with this pool. Like, I got here. My kids are super excited to see me. I think my wife came here and told them, you better be super happy to see Dad. He just walked home with his pool for you guys, carried it the whole way uphill. Both now, but anyways, I got home. The kids were happy to see me. They put the water in the pool, let it warm up, and they had a blast playing in it. The whole time, I'm walking. I'm like, I'm imagining how much fun they're gonna have in this pool. I was flexible enough in that moment to realize that, okay, I'm putting myself through a little bit of hardship here to walk home. Okay, it's a nice day. It's not raining. It's not, it's not 900 degrees outside. It was like 85. It wasn't bad. And the humidity wasn't crazy hot. Well, I walked home. I got here and the kids were happy to see me. They were able to get in the pool. They were happy to do that. If I wasn't flexible enough in that moment to do those things, we would have went back in the store. Okay, return this thing. It doesn't even fit in the car. Why do you guys sell stuff that doesn't fit in my car? I'm yelling at the people about who does that help? Same instance, 2 drastically different outcomes. And so I played the flow chart. Okay, fine. I'm just going to walk home. And as I'm walking, the kids were at home. They were with the in-laws. And so my wife, goes a little bit, and I would catch up to kind of where she was, and she would drive a little bit more, and just to make sure I wasn't going to overheat or something. I'm like, I got a pool. I'm fine. I don't have any water to put in the pool, but it was a fun joke. It's just one of those things. You have to be flexible and have your priorities in line. And I think those 2 things are key. Be flexible in whatever it is that you're doing and have your priorities aligned. If you got your priorities aligned and you're flexible enough to take whatever it is that life throws at you, because it's going to try its hardest to set you off the rails, be flexible, have your priorities aligned to fall back on. I'm sorry, I went off on a tangent there. Do you have anything to add to being flexible?
No, sir. No, I think it's a good example. Is just kind of, like I said, rolling with the punches, going with how things go, and being able to adapt and not let it kind of throw you off too much. And kind of the last thing we'll say about maintaining or working on your work-life balance is to, seek out other people who have what you want and ask them how they got it and find out how to implement that into your life. You might be here on our podcast listening to the story of Mr. Bean carrying a pool down the road and trying to figure out how to make a work-life balance for yourself. Or you may see someone that you find on social media or in real life that have something you want and they have a great work-life balance. Ask them for the success story. Ask them for their tips and how they got there and to those points. And so after everything we talked about between these last 2 episodes and finding that work-life balance, that can be a big tool as well, is just learning from other people and how they got where they got or what they got, and kind of how you can make that part of your journey in finding the balances.
Yeah, I think we've talked about having a mentor before, but ask people who have the things that you want how they got those things. Not that they're going to say, okay, you got to do this and then you do that. You do this, they give you a step by step. Okay, fine, but ask them questions. Have a mentor, have somebody that you go to that is a couple steps ahead of you in life, or maybe it's a giant leap and they're able to scoop down and answer your questions that you have. Have somebody like that in your life that you can turn to, that you can bounce ideas off of, and somebody that can give you reliable feedback on those things. You don't want somebody that just says, yes, that's good. Yeah. Have somebody that actually has that conversation with you. I think, of course, this is for the best.
Yes, sir.
This was it's our first 2-part episode. I think having a work-life balance, this was a good episode to have as a 2-parter. And I'm glad that we were able to separate those out and give work life and having a work-life balance a good run through. Are there things we didn't say? Of course. We could go on for another handful of more episodes on this. I suppose at this point, is there any last words from you, Mr. Kent, on having a work-life balance?
No, sir. I'm going to exercise my right to boundaries and focus on my work-life balance now and say we're going to wrap this up.
Understood. Yes, sir. Thanks for joining us. Until next time, be prestigious.